Excited, Jimin raises his voice. His relationship with Jungkook becomes the spotlight. The atmosphere of the entertainment world is heating up again. Not because of a big scandal, not because of an open conflict, but because of one thing that actually feels deeper, a simple confession, but shook the hearts of millions of fans. Jimin finally raised his voice, and in an instant, the public spotlight focused on his relationship with Jungkook, two figures who have been known to be very close, so warm, but also full of mysteries that have never really been revealed. Everything starts from a moment that seems ordinary. There is no grand stage, no deafening concert cheers, just a casual conversation that then spread widely, sparking debate, speculation, even unstoppable emotions from the fans. In that moment, Jimin revealed something that he had rarely touched openly about Jungkook, about their relationship, and about what really happened behind all the smiles that were often seen in front of the camera. Jimin's tone sounded calm, but there was something different. There's honesty that feels deeper, more personal. He doesn't speak as an idol, but as someone who has been through many things with Jungkook. He recalled the early days, when everything was not as big as it is now, when the pressure was not this heavy, and when their relationship was still plain, without the burden of expectations from the outside world. But that's where the real surprise lies. Jimin hinted that their relationship was not always as easy as it looked. There are moments where they have to distance themselves from each other, not because of a big conflict, but because of the need to understand each other. This statement immediately triggered a big reaction. Many are surprised, because all this time the public has always seen them as an inseparable duo, full of jokes and warmth. Does this mean there is something that has been hidden all this time? Speculations began to emerge. Some consider this as a sign that their relationship has been at a fragile point. Others see it as evidence that their closeness is much more real than imagined, that a strong relationship is not one without problems, but one that is able to survive it all. On the other hand, there are also those who feel that Jimin's confession opens a new side of Jungkook. The figure that has been known to be cheerful, full of energy, turns out to also have a more complex side. In Jimin's story, Jungkook is described as someone who often hides his feelings, someone who chooses to be silent rather than burden others. And that's where Jimin's role becomes so important. He is not just a friend. It is a place to return, a place where Jungkook can be himself without having to pretend to be strong. However, as Jimin said, the role is not always easy. There are times when he feels inadequate, doesn't know what to do, or even feels lost in understanding Jungkook. This confession feels so humane, far from the perfect image that is often attached to them. This is no longer about idols and popularity, but about two individuals who try to understand each other in the midst of extraordinary pressure from the world that keeps watching their every step. It didn't take long. This statement immediately went viral. The media began to discuss it from various points of view. Fans flooded social media with their own interpretations. Some are touched, some are worried, and some feel closer to them. But in the midst of all that, one thing became clear. Jimin and Jungkook's relationship is not something that can be simplified in one word. This is not just an ordinary friendship. This is a relationship built on time, experience, sacrifice, and understanding that continues to grow. What makes it even more interesting is how the two of them choose not to always reveal everything. There are boundaries that they keep. There's a private space that they still protect. And maybe that's exactly what makes their relationship feel so real. In the continuation of his statement, Jimin emphasized that even though they had experienced difficult times, it never destroyed their relationship. On the contrary, it actually strengthens it. He said that every difference, every misunderstanding, actually becomes a lesson that makes them get to know each other better. This statement seems to be the end of all the speculations that are circulating, that behind all the rumors and assumptions, there is a much simpler reality. Two people who care about each other, who are constantly learning to be better, not only for themselves, but also for each other. However, the public does not seem ready to stop discussing it. Every word Jimin said kept being analyzed. Every expression is observed. Even the old moments are brought up again, as if trying to find the pieces of the puzzle that have been missed so far. This is no longer just news, but a phenomenon that shows how much the world cares about their relationship. In the midst of all that, one question remains hanging. Why now? Why did Jimin choose to open his voice at a time like this? Is this just a coincidence, or is there a deeper reason that has not been fully revealed? The answer may never be really clear. But one thing is for sure, this statement has changed the way many people see their relationships. No longer just an entertaining duo on stage, but two individuals with a much more complex and emotional story. And maybe that's where their true strength lies. Not on perfection, but on honesty. Not on the image, but on the relationship that continues to be tested by time. As the world keeps talking, Jimin and Jungkook keep walking in their own way, without the need to explain everything, without the need to prove anything to anyone. Because in the end, what they have is not something that can be measured by public opinion. This is their story, and for the first time in a long time, the world feels a little closer to understanding it. The wave of conversation that emerged after Park Jimin's statement has not yet subsided. In fact, it is increasingly spreading to various corners of the fan community, to the global media. Every piece of word he said kept being replayed, analyzed, and even debated with increasingly diverse points of view. In the midst of the hustle and bustle, one name continues to be the center of attention. Jungkook, a figure that has always looked so strong, but now slowly begins to be understood from a deeper side. Many are starting to realize that all this time, they may only see the surface. Jungkook's laughter on stage, his energy that seems to never run out, and the image of golden magne that is strongly attached, turns out to hold layers of emotions that are not always visible. And of all the people, Jimin was the one who seemed to open that small door, giving a glimpse of what really happened behind the scenes of their lives. The story he told was not about a big conflict or sensational drama. Quite the opposite, about small things that are often overlooked, but have a much greater meaning. About how Jungkook sometimes chooses to be silent when facing pressure, about how he more often keeps his worries than sharing them, and about how their relationship is tested not by big things, but by simple details that slowly pile up. At this point, the public is starting to be divided in the way they interpret everything. Some feel touched, seeing this as a proof of sincere closeness. But not a few began to speculate further, trying to find the hidden story behind the confession, as if every relationship must have a dramatic side that has not been revealed. In fact, if you look deeper, it is simple honesty that is the essence of everything. Jimin is not creating a sensation. He only tells the reality. The human relationships, no matter how strong they are, still have gaps, still need effort, and can still falter if not maintained. And maybe this is what makes many people feel so connected to their stories. Because behind all the glitter of the entertainment world, what they experience is actually very human. But there is one part of Jimin's statement that continues to haunt many people. He had mentioned about the moment where he felt unable to reach Jungkook completely. This sentence is simple, but full of meaning. Many wonder what really happened at that moment. Is there an emotional distance that has ever been created between them? Or is it just a part of a natural growth process? These questions don't have a definite answer, but that's where the attraction is. Because in that obscurity, everyone finds their own reflection. Some see it as a phase that they have experienced in friendship. Some see it as a symbol of a relationship that is tested by time and change. On the other hand, this moment also makes many fans see their old interaction again with a new point of view. Old videos are circulating again, showing small pieces that used to be considered ordinary, but now feel different. Longer gazes than usual, silence in the middle of a conversation, or even jokes that now feel like they have a hidden meaning. Is it all a coincidence? Or was there really a story that only the two of them really understand? Over time, this discussion does not only stop at the relationship between the two of them. Many began to discuss the dynamics of BTS as a whole. How the pressure as a global group affects the relationship between members. How they have to balance between personal life and public expectations. And how they still survive in the midst of it all. In this context, what Jimin expresses feels like a small piece of a much bigger picture. It's not just about him and Jungkook, but about the reality of being part of something so big that it barely makes room for error. And maybe that's why their relationship became so strong, because they not only share happy moments, but also burdens that not everyone can understand. Interestingly, in the midst of all speculation and analysis, both Jimin and Jungkook chose to remain silent after that statement. No additional clarification, no long explanation. It was as if they were letting the world speak while they continued to live their relationship as usual. This attitude actually adds a layer of mystery that is getting deeper. But for some people, their silence is not a sign of something hidden, but a form of belief that not everything needs to be explained, that there's a part of the relationship that the public does not need to know. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all this, that in a world that continues to demand transparency, there is power in keeping certain things private, that not all stories have to be told to the end, and that the strongest relationship is often the one that does not need much explanation. As time goes by, this euphoria will probably subside. The public's attention will shift to other things, as always happens. This statement seems to be the end of all the speculations that are circulating, that behind all the rumors and assumptions, there is a much simpler reality. Two people who care about each other, who are constantly learning to be better, not only for themselves, but also for each other. However, the public does not seem ready to stop discussing it. Every word Jimin said kept being analyzed. Every expression is observed. Even the old moments are brought up again, as if trying to find the pieces of the puzzle that have been missed so far. This is no longer just news, but a phenomenon that shows how much the world cares about their relationship. In the midst of all that, one question remains hanging. Why now? Why did Jimin choose to open his voice at a time like this? Is this just a coincidence, or is there a deeper reason that has not been fully revealed? The answer may never be really clear. But one thing is for sure, this statement has changed the way many people see their relationships. No longer just an entertaining duo on stage, but two individuals with a much more complex and emotional story. And maybe that's where their true strength lies. Not on perfection, but on honesty. Not on the image, but on the relationship that continues to be tested by time. As the world keeps talking, Jimin and Jungkook keep walking in their own way. Without the need to explain everything. Without the need to prove anything to anyone. Because in the end, what they have is not something that can be measured by public opinion. This is their story. And for the first time in a long time, the world feels a little closer to understanding it. The wave of conversation that emerged after Park Jimin's statement has not yet subsided. In fact, it is increasingly spreading to various corners of the fan community, to the global media. Every piece of word he said kept being replayed, analyzed, and even debated with increasingly diverse points of view. In the midst of the hustle and bustle, one name continues to be the center of attention. Jungkook, a figure that has always looked so strong, but now slowly begins to be understood from a deeper side. Many are starting to realize that all this time, they may only see the surface. Jungkook's laughter on stage, his energy that seems to never run out, and the image of golden magne that is strongly attached, turns out to hold layers of emotions that are not always visible. And of all the people, Jimin was the one who seemed to open that small door, giving a glimpse of what really happened behind the scenes of their lives. The story he told was not about a big conflict or sensational drama. Quite the opposite, about small things that are often overlooked but have a much greater meaning. About how Jungkook sometimes chooses to be silent when facing pressure, about how he more often keeps his worries than sharing them, and about how their relationship is tested not by big things, but by simple details that slowly pile up. At this point, the public is starting to be divided in the way they interpret everything. Some feel touched, seeing this as a proof of sincere closeness. But not a few began to speculate further, trying to find the hidden story behind the confession. As if every relationship must have a dramatic side that has not been revealed. In fact, if you look deeper, it is simple honesty that is the essence of everything. Jimin is not creating a sensation. He only tells the reality. The human relationships, no matter how strong they are, still have gaps, still need effort, and can still falter if not maintained. And maybe this is what makes many people feel so connected to their stories. Because behind all the glitter of the entertainment world, what they experience is actually very human. But there is one part of Jimin's statement that continues to haunt many people. He had mentioned about the moment where he felt unable to reach Jungkook completely. This sentence is simple, but full of meaning. Many wonder what really happened at that moment. Or is it just a part of a natural growth process? These questions don't have a definite answer. But that's where the attraction is. Because in that obscurity, everyone finds their own reflection. Some see it as a phase that they have experienced in friendship. Some see it as a symbol of a relationship that is tested by time and change. On the other hand, this moment also makes many fans see their old interaction again with a new point of view. Old videos are circulating again, showing small pieces that used to be considered ordinary, but now feel different. Longer gazes than usual, silence in the middle of a conversation, or even jokes that now feel like they have a hidden meaning. Is it all a coincidence? Or was there really a story that only the two of them really understand? Over time, this discussion does not only stop at the relationship between the two of them. Many began to discuss the dynamics of BTS as a whole, how the pressure as a global group affects the relationship between members, how they have to balance between personal life and public expectations, and how they still survive in the midst of it all. In this context, what Jimin expresses feels like a small piece of a much bigger picture. It's not just about him and Jungkook, but about the reality of being part of something so big that it barely makes room for error. And maybe that's why their relationship became so strong, because they not only share happy moments, but also burdens that not everyone can understand. Interestingly, in the midst of all speculation and analysis, both Jimin and Jungkook chose to remain silent after that statement. No additional clarification, no long explanation. It was as if they were letting the world speak while they continued to live their relationship as usual. This attitude actually adds a layer of mystery that is getting deeper. But for some people, their silence is not a sign of something hidden, but a form of belief that not everything needs to be explained, that there's a part of the relationship that the public does not need to know. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all this, that in a world that continues to demand transparency, there is power in keeping certain things private, that not all stories have to be told to the end, and that the strongest relationship is often the one that does not need much explanation. As time goes by, this euphoria will probably subside. The public's attention will shift to other things, as always happens. But the traces of this moment will remain, not as a scandal, not as a controversy, but as a reminder that behind all the spotlight, there is a true story that continues to run. A story about two people who grow up together. A story about a distance that was once created but never really separated. And the story of a relationship that, although not perfect, instead becomes strong because of its imperfection. In the midst of all that, one thing seems to be becoming clearer. Whatever happens between Jimin and Jungkook, it is not something that can be simplified by outside opinions. It is something that lives, develops, and is only truly understood by those who live it. And maybe, for now, that's more than enough.